Okay. We left off on Nun Zayin and Aleph. I'd like to start from Egla Rufa again. The Egla Rufa. The Mishnah tells us that if you Makarish, you marry a woman in Egla Rufa, there's going to be an argument. When does the Egla Rufa become Yisurei Hanor? Is it after it's decapitated, or after it's brought down to the ravine, to the valley where you decapitate it, or maybe when you purchase it? We'll see. Minolon, Amrit Vervyanai Kapora Ksiv Kochin. Since the Egla Rufa, we find the word atonement mentioned, associated with Egla Rufa. So what's Kapora? Kapora is synonymous with Kochin, with something that's consecrated, a korban. Of course, this is not a korban, this is not done in the Beis HaMikdash, but nevertheless, using that term tells us, in terms of its status as a monetary object, you do not have ownership in it. Sipori Mitzora, Minolan, the two birds that the Kohen, this ritual is done, we'll see, in the city, and then you send the bird out of the city. And this allows the Mitzora, the leper, has to be out of the camp. What allows him to re-enter the camp? Once this ritual of the birds are done, okay? One bird is slaughtered, then you take the living bird, you dip it into the water with the blood of the bird that was slaughtered, and you sprinkle it on the Mitzora, okay? Together with a hyssop and a piece of cedar wood and a red crimson dyed piece of cloth. We'll see. Doesn't use the word kapara there. Doesn't say kapara. No. It's called machshir. It enables you to re-enter the camp. Kapara is atonement. This is not atonement. No, everything's chulkin. One is rehabilitation. One gives you the pass. One allows you. I'll give you an example. You go to the mikveh. Right after you contaminate, you have to wait till nightfall. You're not permitted to enter the camp. But you went to the mikveh. No, you have to wait. It's still considered semi-contaminated until that time passes. Once nightfall comes, now you're permitted to engage in things that you couldn't engage with before. You have to do this. This gives you the pass. This gives you the release. It releases you from your status of contamination to be able to enter into the camp. You're not permitted to enter into the camp until this is done. At this point, he's b'chutz lamachne. He's out of the camp.
And only a Kohen can do that.
Minolon, the Tanrei B'Shmuel, so it was learned in the Beis Rabbi Shmuel, Nema Machshir Mechapim Mifnim. Now, one of the korbanos that a Mitzora has to bring is called Asham Mitzora. The Asham Mitzora is not an atonement korban, but rather it's a Machshir, meaning he has to bring multiple korbanos. That, you bring that korban, that allows you to bring other korbanos, which will be kapora for him. Nema Machshir Mechapim Mifnim. Right? You have the Osham Mitzora mentioned, you bring that in the Beis HaMikdash, and you have other korbanos, which you have to bring multiple korbanos, and a Mitzora brings multiple korbanos. That korban makes the other korbanos to be effective within the context of kapora. Okay? He brings a chatos, brings an ola. Right? He has to bring that guilt offering of Mitzora for the other korbanos to be effective to bring about kapora, atonement. Let's read the Gemara. You'll ask the questions. So nema machshir mechapim bifnim and nema machshir mechapim bechutz. Ma machshir mechapim homo bifnim. Also bo machshir ki mechapir. Correct? The machshir that's mentioned within the sanctuary. Right? The machshir is no different than the mechapir. Right? It's a korban. A korban, one doesn't have any monetary interest in a korban. Whether the korban is a mechapir or whether the korban is what? Is a machshir. It enables you, it qualifies you to be able to go to another level. Either korban is not considered your asset. Right? The machshir is ki mechapir. Machshir, mechapir, and bachut. So what's the mechapir which is mentioned outside the Beis HaMikdash? That's Egla Rufa. Egla roof has no kedusha, but the Torah refers to it as what? As mechaper. It atones for the community, and because it uses the word atones, it's the equivalent of a consecrated animal, meaning it's not your monetary asset. It's not your asset. So, and we have machshir, which is mentioned outside the Beis Hamikdash, which is the bird, which enables the Metzorah to re-enter the camp. So just as within the sanctuary, the machshir and the mechaper both are entities which you have no financial interest, identically, the machshir, which is mentioned outside the Beis Hamikdash, which are the birds, are the equivalent of the mechaper, the egla rufa, which you have no monetary interest. Good. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. Somebody could gift them to him.
But at some point he owns them before. He has the ownership of them.
Let's say he purchased them. Let's say the Kohen. Okay, he purchases the birds.
So we can now talk about.
Wait, we're going to discuss in a moment. There's going to be an argument. When does the bird become Yisur Hano? At the time of the purchase, or when you slaughter the bird?
Before we get to that, the Metzorah, before anything happens, he owns these birds. He has to own them.
Wait, 1 second. That's what I'm explaining. There's going to be opinion in the Gemara that the moment you purchase it, at that moment, it's no longer yours.
Without getting into that, with the Egla Arufa, it's not an individual, it's the Beit Din of a city.
Okay, they use communal funds to buy it, to purchase it, and initially the animal itself is what? Is permitted. It's permitted. It belongs to the community. Monetarily, it belongs to the community.
The concept is that this man wants to get married, and he's conceptually saying, my share in the Egla Arufa as a member of this community is what I want to, because otherwise he has no ownership in it.
No,
He has no financial interest. I thought the Egla Arufa.
no, whoever owned it, let's say, would gift it to him. Let's say they would gift him the Egla Rufa. Initially, either he has a monetary ownership, or let's say the community, before they actually, even after they decapitated it, you would take the decapitated calf, which now they just left it. It's abandoned. An abandoned calf, after it's been decapitated. You take that calf, and you want to marry a woman with its carcass. It's a shava pruta. Is she married or not married? She's not married. Because it's Yisur Hano.
In other words, we're contemplating a scenario where it's claiming owner's property.
Let's say. So this cannot be claimed. Because it's Yisur Hano, you cannot acquire something which you're not permitted to benefit from. We'll discuss that in the Gemara. Okay? We'll discuss this in a moment.
Before it's decapitated.
That's going to be discussed in the Gemara. What's its status before it's decapitated? Let's say you take it down to this ravine where you're going to decapitate it.
I'm getting away from that question. I'm just
So
trying to.
that's why I'm saying
relationship of the
after it's decapitated, it's left there.
So we've got a scenario.
Okay, I'm saying it just to make it simple now. He would take that now and give that to a woman for marriage. Is its value a shava pruta? The answer is no. Because it's Yisur Hano. How do I know it's Yisur Hano? Because the Torah associates the word kapara with that entity. That's the reason why.
Is that called the concept of your amendment? What is this?
No, not a amendment.
What is this that you're saying the Torah refers to it this way?
No, that's just a reality. Because kapara, the term kapara only has relevance to kochim. It's like an elucidation. That word reveals to me that it is equivalent of something else. Memetzino means when I compare A to B. That's memetzino. Because the characteristics are similar. Here, the Torah calls it kapara. If it's kapara, Torah says it's the equivalent of a korban. And we know korban, you cannot own a korban. Monetarily, you have no financial interest in the korban. So identically, you have no financial interest in this object. What? Definitely. Sure. That's after the ritual, that's afterwards. It's already, that's not some mitzvah, so it's a whole thing. Before that, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, now, the birds, when you purchase them for the Mitzorah. At what point do they become Yisur Hano? At what point? Rabbi Yochanan Mishash Chita. When initially you buy the two birds, at that moment, until you actually slaughter the birds, you have two birds, you only slaughter one of the two. One doesn't fly away, you send it away. Until you send it away, the bird, even the living bird, you're not permitted benefit from. So when you slaughter, the bird that's slaughtered, after it's slaughtered, that bird is Yisur Hano. The other one, when you send it away, we'll see, after it's sent away, it becomes permitted. But before you send it away, it has the same status as its pair. Okay? That's Rabbi Yochanan. Mishash Shchita. Rishloksham Mishas Lekicha. It becomes Yisur Hano when you purchase the birds for Tzipori Mitzorah. The purchasing itself, that at that moment, it becomes Yisur Hano. Well, that's what we're learning in the Gemara. Right? Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Mishash Shchita. Shchitu D'Osra. Now, we're speaking about something that's not consecrated. The birds are not consecrated. And Rashi is the money that you purchase the birds, it's not Momen Hegdish, it's not Bedek Habayis. Every level of consecration, whether it's for the refurbishment of the base of Hegdish, whether it's for a korban, whatever it may be, has no relevance to these birds. So if that's the case, how does it change its status from permitted to forbidden? The answer is the ritual. And what is the ritual of the bird? The Shechita. So therefore, the transition from permitted to non-permitted takes place when you slaughter it. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Rishloksham Mishas Lekicha. It's from the time you purchase it. Why? Where do I know this from? Egla Rufa. Egla Rufa, the proceeds that you purchase it with, the money you purchased the Egla Rufa. It's not consecrated money. Yet we say, the Torah says, Egla Rufa is kapora, is the equivalent of a korban. So when does it become? Is it already forbidden even before it's decapitated? When it's alive, she says. We learn from Egla Rufa because we equated the machshir to the mechaper, right? As we said, just as you have machshir mechaper bifnim, you have machshir mechaper mechutz. As we equate the osher mitzorah to the or kabonus in the base of Mikdash, so the Egla Rufa is mechaper outside, and we have a machshir, so we're equating the two, that the machshir also you have no financial interest. Ma Egla Rufa michayim, the Egla Rufa, when does it assume the forbidden status? It's when it's alive. It's not after it's decapitated. So identically, the birds that are used for the Mitzorah already assume the forbidden status even before the Shechita. When they're alive, similar to the what? To the Egla Arufa. So the asks, Egla Arufa gufim emosai. And at what point does the calf that's purchased to be decapitated, when does it assume the forbidden status? At what point? Rabbi Yanai. So Rabbi Yanai says, Gvul shemati bo, v'shochachti. Meaning there was a certain time period when the transition from permitted to forbidden comes about, but I forgot exactly what that time period is. V'nazben chavrin lomar, and there was a consensus among my colleagues, and they said, Yiridosa l'nachal le'eson hi osrosa. That when you take it down to that valley of Eson, that's when the transition happens from permitted to non-permitted. So when you purchase it, it's not forbidden. But when you take it down to the valley, that's when it becomes not permitted. But when is that? So we say when you purchase the Egla Rufa, correct? It's not forbidden. It's only when you take it down to Nachal Eson, to this specific location. That's when it becomes forbidden. This is Rabbi Yochanan speaking. From the time of the purchase, that's not the time that it becomes forbidden. It's only when something's done to it. Just as the egla, it's only when you take it down. It's not the time of the purchase. It's not the time of the purchase. Identical here, it's not time of the purchase, but it's time of the shechita. Wait a second. Wait, you're not hearing the words. Okay? The Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lok says, it's Mishas Lekicho. We're focusing on, is it from the time of the purchase or not? Right? We're learning Machshir, we're learning the birds of the Mitzorah from the Egla Rufa. Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish says, just as the Eglah Rufa, when is it Shas L'Kich, when you purchase it? So the question is, when you purchase the Eglah Rufa, does it assume a forbidden status? Yes or no? No. Eglah Rufa, not the birds. Eglah Rufa. We're learning the birds from the Eglah Rufa. When you purchase the Eglah Rufa, does it assume a forbidden status? No. So if you compare it to Eglah Rufa, and Eglah Rufa at the time purchase doesn't assume a forbidden status, so why should the birds assume a forbidden status? Right? That you get? Okay, good. That's where Rabbi Yochanan is saying. So you see, if you compare A to B, and you're saying it's purchase, we see that that's not the case. You have to do, something follows the purchase. You must take it to the valley to be decapitated only then, even though it's pre-decapitation, but it's not the purchase. Rabbi Yochanan is focusing on it's not the purchase time. So just as the Eglah Rufa is not when you purchase it, the birds do not become forbidden when you purchase it. Something has to follow. So the Eglah Rufa, there's something done, you take it to the valley. What follows purchasing in regard to the birds? Slaughtering. So it's the next stage. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Okay? Seems to be good, right? Reish Lakish says, no, they're not comparable. What you're saying is not the case. Hochi ashta. Hosam islik v'lachrino. In regard to the Eglah Rufa, there's an interim stage before you decapitate it. It's alive, and you take it to the valley. So we're going from, but it's still alive. So because there's something before you decapitate it, it's still alive. So identically, the bird, when it's still alive. So we're learning alive from alive. So when is the bird alive? From the time you purchase it. Because the next stage is what is shchita. So therefore, as a result of that, so Reish Lakish says, even though regarding the Eglah Rufa, it's not when you purchase it, that's only because there's a following stage when it still remains alive, which is taken to the valley. But since the bird itself, there's no stage, and it's in the ritual following the purchasing, and we're comparing it to the Eglah Rufa, as over there it becomes forbidden when it's still alive. The bird has to become forbidden when it's still alive. So when is that? That's pre-shchita. That's before it's slaughtered. Therefore, we have to say there's no other stage when it's alive. So when is it alive? Before you do the killing, before you kill it, you slaughter it, the bird. It's on when you purchase it. That's Reish Lakish's response to Rabbi Yochanan. No. It's relevant when you purchase it. So good. You don't take this is done outside the Beis Hamikdash. No. It's not the taking, because even if you purchase exactly where you're slaughtering, it's the same thing. There's no mitzvah to take it to anywhere. You must take it down to that ravine, down to that valley, where you're going to decapitate it. No. This is where you find a murdered Jew outside of a community, and you know the murderer had come from that community. It's not a korban. It's not a korban. It's not a korban. It's not a korban. It's not consecrated. Sel Asor Lazozel is a consecrated animal. This is not consecrated. This is chulin. There's an ordinary animal that's designated to be used for the Eglah Rufa. It has no kedusha whatsoever, because Torah calls it kapora. Because it brings about atonement, like a korban brings kapora. These birds, I mean, in the Beis Hamikdash, you have birds. No kedusha whatsoever. No. We'll see. There's Tosas Lamed Beis, how it's done over here. It's done by a kohen. First, it's malika. A bird normally. This is done with a knife. It's shochat, shchita. Okay. No. This is not a bird offering. This is not an offering. Okay. Eser Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan goes and asks a question from a brayso on Reish Lakish. Now, the Torah says there are two types of birds. When we speak about different species, there's a kosher species and non-kosher species. A kosher species, you're permitted to eat. A non-kosher species, Torah says explicitly, you're not permitted to eat. So Torah says, Kol tzipa tahora tochelu. All kosher species, you're permitted to eat. Tochelu. L'rabos esem shulachas, because the word kol seems to be superfluous, right? The Torah should say, tzipar Torah tochelu, right? A kosher species you shall eat. What's all? What's the all? What's the all coming? The word kol seems to be superfluous. What does that come to include? So we said, the moment, let's say according to Rabbi Yochanan, the moment you slaughter the bird, its pair becomes osabano. They both become osabano, right? The one slaughtered permanently is osabano, and the living bird is osabano. But when you send it into the wild, right, that's when it becomes permitted. But until you send it into the wild, what is its status? Yisrael, no. How do we know when you send it into the wild, it becomes permitted? How do we know this? It's based on this pasuk. Kol tzipar Torah chelu. Not only the kosher species, kol comes to include the bird that originally was forbidden as a result of being paired with the one that was slaughtered. When you send it into the wild, when it's mishulachas, it becomes permitted. What's asher lo tochelu? But then it goes and enumerates and delineates all the species that you're not permitted to eat, the types of birds. Bezeh asher lo tochelu. Mehem, the rabos es ashchuta. That comes to include, to tell me, the bird that's slaughtered that you're not permitted. What does it say? The rabos es ashchuta. If you're telling me that the bird that's slaughtered, even pre-slaughtering from the time you purchase it, it already takes on a forbidden status, according to Reish Lakish, boy. So why, after you slaughter it, it's even more so it's osabano. Afterwards, Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish definitely agrees to Rabbi Yochanan. He's saying it's even before. So what does Torah have to tell me after it's slaughtered that you're not permitted to benefit? If pre-slaughtering you're not permitted to benefit, after slaughtering, why would I think you're not permitted to benefit from it? Here? This is Rabbi Yochanan's question to Reish Lakish. So evidently, what does that indicate? That the slaughtering is what actually causes the transition from the permitted status to the non-permitted status. And pre-slaughtering, it's totally permitted. Okay, so this is a proof to what? To Rabbi Yochanan? Mer says no. Ma'u the same-o. Midi davakochim. The b'chaim asiri. Va'asish chito machshorlu. I'd say, you have a regular korban. Before you slaughter the korban, what's its status? It's forbidden to benefit from it at any level. What happens after you slaughter it? Now you could eat it, you can benefit within certain parameters. You're permitted to benefit from it. So I'd say the same thing here. The shechita would permit it. Kamash malon. This you cannot eat. Regarding the bird that was slaughtered for the mitzorah, although normally when you slaughter the machshir, let's say the osher mitzorah in the Beis Hamikdash, when it was slaughtered, the Kohen made it after it was slaughtered. So maybe over here also you'd be able to eat it. Torah says lo sachelu. Even though it's similar to that, and we equate one to another, but in regard to eating, benefiting, once it's slaughtered, it's lo tochelu. You cannot. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. Just a question. We had earlier, yesterday, 2 days ago, Rebbe Vosa's name, Rebbe Loza, when the Torah says lo socha, lo sochlu, it means not only you're not permitted to teach, you're not even permitted to benefit. So if the Torah says, Zeh asher lo tochelu, right? This you're not permitted to eat. Correct? And that comes to tell me the shchuta. So and you're of the opinion, it's what? It says the Rabbah says ashchuta. So the question is like this. The Gemara says, how do we know that the tzipor mitzorah you're not permitted to benefit from? Because it says kapora. Right? Kapora. But according to Rebbe Vo, name of Rebbe Loza, what do I need kapora for? It says, what the Brisa says, right? Zeh asher lo tochelu, the Rabbah says ashchuta. Comes to tell me the shchuta. Lo tochelu means you're not permitted to benefit from. So what do I need? What do I need the word kapora to tell me it's the equivalent of the korban? I understand. Let's repeat it again. The Gemara, we started off, the Gemara says, how do we know tzipori mitzora osabano? Right? How do we know? The Gemara says, because it says kapora. And kapora is kekochi. It's like a consecrated animal. Okay? Now we're saying, How do I know the shchuta is not permitted? The Brisa says, because it says, Ze asher lo tochlu. This you shall not eat. And what is that? To tell me, after you slaughter it, you're not permitted to eat it. According to Rebbe Loza, what does the word lo tochlu mean? Not even to benefit. So I know, tzipori mitzori, you're not permitted to benefit. It says, Ze asher lo tochlu. It says, tochlu means you're not permitted to not only eat, you're not permitted to benefit. So according to what Reish Lakish is answering, or Rabbi Yochanan is saying, what do we need kapara to tell me? That you're not permitted to benefit. Asher lo tochel tells me you're not permitted to benefit. Right? That's the question. Wait a second. Before you ask me how did this... David, you have the question? So, firstly, according to Reish Lakish, when does it become Isur Ano? When you purchase it. Wait, when you purchase it. So that's the question. When you purchase it, how do I know, even before you slaughter it, you're not permitted to benefit from it? Esa shelo tochlo means that's after it's slaughtered. Before it's slaughtered, it doesn't say lo tochlo. Right? It's l'rabos is ashchuta. Lo tochlo. Zeash lo tochlo. L'rabos is ashchuta. That tells me after it's slaughtered, you're not permitted to benefit from. So Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, what does that say? If it was forbidden before, why would I think the slaughtering would permit it? So he says no, because I think it would be like kochim. You have a korban. The kohen, when does he eat the korban? After it's slaughtered. So I think here also, so lo tochel tells me you're not permitted. But before it's slaughtered, how do I know it's not permitted to benefit from? The answer is because it says kapora kakochim. Because it says kapora. And what about the pair? The bird that eventually you're going to send into the wild, right? How do you know that's you're not permitted to benefit from? Even after it's slaughtered. It's co-bird, right? Right? The Eseshel Tochulu, that's the one that's slaughtered. What about the other bird before you send it into the wild? How do you know that you're not permitted to benefit from? You know what the answer is? Because it says kapora, kakochim. Because until you send it into the wild, everybody agrees that co-bird, if you makadosh an isha with it, she's able to kodeshes. It's only once you send it into the wild, that's when it becomes permitted. That's the meshulachas. That's after it's sent into the wild. But before it's sent into the wild, that bird is yisur no. Because it says kapora, kapora kakochim. Chometz. I mean, whatever it says it, wherever it says it, he says. Has nothing with kochim. Nothing with kochim. Here, the only reason we're quoting koch because it says the word kapora. Okay. Interesting. Quoting another brisa.
What does Reish Lakish mean?
No, Reish Lakish is explaining it. Rabbi Yochanan is quoting a brisa. It seems the word is superfluous, so the brisa says, no, it comes to include something. What is this you shall not eat? What does that come? What does that come to include? The bird that's slaughtered. So it seems to be the slaughtering prohibits the bird. So that's a refutation of Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish says it's the purchase. So that he says no. Pre-slaughtering, the bird is definitely is forbidden. That's similar to the egla rufa. When it's alive, it's already assumes the forbidden status. But I would think it's similar to kochim. Just as a korban, pre-slaughtering, it's not permitted. But post-slaughtering, the kohen eats of it. So maybe here also, pre-slaughtering, at the time of the purchase, it's forbidden. But once it's slaughtered, maybe you're permitted to eat it, because factually it was slaughtered. Therefore, Torah has to tell me, zelo tochlu. That although we're equating it to kochim, nevertheless, after it's slaughtered, this you're not permitted to eat.
But those extra words, what does Reish Lakish mean?
That's what he's saying. That's why it's not superfluous. Because I would think it would be similar to a korban that after slaughtering you're permitted to eat it. Torah says this is not the equivalent of a korban, therefore you're not permitted. Even though it's slaughtered, it's a valid slaughtering, doesn't mean you're not permitted to eat it. That's what the Torah is saying. Okay? No, he's proving from here the shechita is what prohibits it. That's what the Torah is saying over here. That when does it assume the forbidden status? It's only with the shechita. No, that's something else. Eisveg. Shochta v'nimtzis streifo. Now, the bird that you use, if it has an internal defect, it doesn't qualify for the birds. Why? Even though you're not going to eat these birds. Because it's a sipor hachayo. That's how the Torah refers to these birds. The living birds. Right? What is sipor hachayo? I mean, if it's dead, it's not called a sipor. Chay means it has to be fully alive. That if it has any one of the defects which would render it treifo, it's actually, its life is compromised. Its vitality is compromised. Shochtav nitzis treifo. Right, you purchase 2 birds, you slaughter one, and you do an internal examination, and you find the bird is a what? A treifo. So Rashi explains, it says nimtzeis treifo. I mean, let's say a bird, its wing it's missing a wing. It's missing, its legs are clipped. That's not nimtzeis. I mean, if when you purchase it, you see immediately, that's not, it was found to be a treifo. So what is the connotation it was found to be a treifo? That means it was something internal. Outwardly, you wouldn't notice it. It's only once it was killed and you opened the bird did you come upon this defect within the bird. That's the connotation nimtzeis. It was found to be a treifo. Okay? Shochta v'nimtzeis treifo. Yikar zug l'shniya. So what do? It's not that you have to buy another pair. The first bird, the other bird remains where it is. You just purchase another one. You pair up another bird with it. Okay? Yikar zug l'shniya. V'rishona muteres bano. And the first bird is permitted to benefit from. The one that you slaughtered that you found to be a treifo. So Rabbi Yochanan says to Reish Lakish, so when did you find it to be a treifo? After it was slaughtered. So if you say the slaughtering brings about the forbidden status, and pre-slaughtering you're permitted to benefit from it, so it's very good. Since the shechit itself was not valid, correct? Because it was found to be a treifo, and pre-slaughtering it was permitted, so the transition from permitted to forbidden never took place. But according to Reish Lakish, that pre-slaughtering, from the time of the purchase, it's already assumed as a forbidden status. So the shechita, whether it's valid or not, should be irrelevant, right? So why, after you slaughter it, it's found to be treifo, why is it permitted? It should remain forbidden. Wait, terrific. That's the more answers. The more answers, your answer. So you see, you're thinking straight. If you're of the opinion that prior to slaughtering, from time of purchase, it already assumes a forbidden status, why, after you slaughter it, does it become permitted? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's very good, because what act causes the transition from permitted to forbidden? The act of slaughtering. The slaughtering wasn't a valid slaughtering because it was a treifo. But according to Reish Lakish, that pre-slaughtering, it's already forbidden. Why now that you slaughter it and it's found to be a treifo, why is it permitted? Omar lei, see answers. Holchem askin go chinipsis treifo b'nei meyo. The lochal kedusha aleh klal. The lochal aleh kedusha klal. Kedusha doesn't mean kedusha. It doesn't assume the forbidden status whatsoever, because it was a mistaken purchase. It was purchased because he had thought that the bird itself has relevance to be used for the tzipor mitzorah. But now that it's been revealed that it has an internal defect, right? It has an internal defect. Therefore, as a result of this, it reveals retroactively that it was never qualified to be used in this context. Be continued.